Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Patreon podcast. I was given a little bit of feedback from a friend that the other episodes that I recorded in this new setup were a little monotone, and seeing as I've been working on this audiobook, I tend to talk kind of quietly and kind of monotone like this because that's kind of what the stories require. But I also feel like it's necessary for me to be a little bit more animated when I talk. And I want to make sure that I do that with the podcast because I'm not trying to put you guys to sleep. I think that it's really important that I kind of keep things moving and I kind of keep pace. I realized I said this the other day or the other episode that I want to talk slower, and I realized I'm not doing that. So it's kind of a struggle for me to find that middle ground, but we'll get there. I'm not worried at all. So this episode, I wanted to talk about my plans for 2021. This is something that I started thinking about maybe a month ago, like early September, and it's a big thing for me. I talked in the last episode that I didn't really want to work on commissions as much anymore, and that definitely frees up time for me to focus on personal projects. And while that's a very liberating idea, it's also kind of terrifying because my creative output isn't being dictated by other people. And again, that's awesome. Like, that's definitely the dream. But I also, it's nice to just have somebody say, hey, make this for me, please. And then I can make that. And then, I have content and they have what they need and everything's fine. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of a shift in how I want to do things. And the first thing that I was thinking is working on a game jam. And this is something that we've talked about a little bit for the 2-hour album challenge group, where it's just like creating a game jam based off of some of the music that was generated during this audio challenge, and then people can make games inspired by that audio. And that's been something that's been rattling around in my head for over a year, and I really, really want to make that happen. So my plan is to hopefully in January, after the 2-hour album challenge, I can host a week-long game jam that will allow people to make a game inspired by music. And I think that this is really an important thing because one of the biggest obstacles when it comes to making video games, especially in a game jam context, is music. Because art can be found easily, art can be created easily through pixel art or just using abstract shapes, but when it comes to music, it's still pretty difficult to find something that fits. And creating a game based off of sound is a very interesting idea, and I really want to explore that. It would also... I could host the game jam, but I could also participate in it, which is also something that I want to do, where I'm able to be inspired by music and just make something through that. And participating in game jams is something that I really want to do more of. Because I like making games. I like making games like I like doing the 2-hour track challenge. I like just taking an idea and putting it into the world and seeing what happens with it. And it doesn't have to be this huge, grandiose project like I'm so used to doing. It can be just something that I do over a week. And then I put it out into the world, and then it's there and done, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. Putting games out into the world, they don't have to be big, they don't have to be grand, but they do express an idea. And if people like that game, then I can spend more time on it. I mean, that's how many games are born these days, is through a game jam. It's through a weekend or a week-long game jam, and people like the idea, so they continue developing it, and they continue expanding on that idea and refining it, and suddenly it becomes a fully fledged project. And I think that just like the 2-hour track challenge, there's a lot of merit in the idea of just creating something, and then you can take that something and expand on it if it resonates with people. So yeah, doing game jams and doing that kind of project is a real big thing for me and something that I want to focus on in 2021. I said that maybe I'll just do it twice and see how it goes, see what kind of the reception is. And if people like it, we can keep going. If people don't like it, maybe it's kind of a once a year thing. Or, if I like it, maybe I'll just keep doing it because I don't care. So yeah, that's one of the things. Another one of the things that I want to start working on are ebooks. I have a lot of ideas for what I want to do, but kind of finding the time to actually put those together is really daunting. And one of the things that I actually did yesterday is I picked up Affinity Publisher, which is kind of like Adobe InDesign, but cheaper, really. So I am starting my first ebook as of today, which is the, what did I call it? It's about the 2-hour track challenge. It's how to write a song in 2 hours, 10 tips on starting and actually finishing music. And that's something that's really important to me. I feel that YouTube is a great space for this, and I'll probably make a YouTube video as a companion to the ebook, but I want to have a place where I can create an ebook and try to market it on Gumroad, because Gumroad is a big part of my kind of ecosystem for releasing things these days, especially things that aren't specifically music. So I want to make a book for how to write a song in 2 hours. I also want to write a book for how to write an album in a month, because those are kind of the two big things for me when it comes to music production. There's making like the 2-hour track challenge, which is obvious, but I also love participating in the album in a month challenge, which happens in like February and November. I think there's like an album in a month challenge for most months, and you can always just do it yourself too. But there's a lot to be said about creating an album in a month, and just it's not about the actual work that goes into the music, because that's mutable. That's like something that can change around. But it's about all the planning. It's about understanding the mindset that you have to put time in every day, and all of this other stuff that I think that I can get, 10 tips to starting and finishing an album in a month or something like that, and just getting the same thing with doing the 2-hour track challenge, but just doing it with music in a month. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. I got a couple text messages. And then the big thing that I really want to do is I want to make an ebook focused on creativity. Specifically, I want to call it Be Remarkable, because, obviously that's kind of my catchphrase when it comes to creative things. But it would be Remarkable, 52 creative tips that you've already heard, or something like that, something that kind of grabs people's attention. Because for the most part, when I talk about this stuff, I imagine that most people are already familiar with the ideas that I'm conveying, but it's not really put into a context that lights a fire under them or lets them see it in a different light. And I really want to put a spotlight on these creative ideas. And the nice thing is, with the prior year of the Patreon podcast, I have a ton of ideas, and I also have kind of a list of other ideas that I feel would work in there. So I have a strong feeling that I'll be able to get to 52 very, very easily. It will not be a short book, though, if I write like a page or two per idea. And I'm not saying like full page ideas, but just a couple lines or even a couple paragraphs for each idea. That's still a ton of work. So that's something that I'm definitely going to chunk away at next year. But I want to get a general idea of how to write and release an ebook before I go into like the really, really big one, because I know that the Be Remarkable book, that's not only something that's going to be a huge effort on my part, but it's also kind of like a baby to me, where like I want to make sure that that book is right, and I can work out the kinks with all of the little books first before I jump into the big one. So that's another really big one for me. The audiobook is something that I really want to jump into, and I want to make sure that I do correctly. And those are kind of the two really big ones. I want to keep doing the 2-hour album challenge, of course, because that's just a ton of fun. And I love creating a community for music making, and I hope to continue to build that community. Both with the Patreon community and with the Discord community, I want to keep building communities. I want to keep educating people and creating a space for people to be educated. That's very important for me. And then beyond that, there was like something else, and I can't remember what it is now. But the 2-hour track challenge. I have been in a state of flux with the 2-hour track challenge. I feel that August really kind of wrecked my creative drive when it comes to making things, specifically making music. And I feel like I'm kind of getting out of that rut, but it's taking a little bit more time than I expected. And I don't know where the 2-hour track challenge is going to be. Like, I went into season 13, which is the current season. I went into season 13 hoping that it would be a blessed season, because everybody's like, oh, 13 is an unlucky number and all that. And I like the number 13. I think it's a great number. But for some reason, it hasn't been a great season for me. I think that there's been a couple pretty cool songs, but I think that for the most part, the songs have just been kind of meh. And that's not a bad thing. I feel that right now my current style is in a little bit of stasis. Like, I don't really know where I want to go with what I'm doing, because I tend to default to this like lo-fi hip hop jazzy piano thing whenever I don't know what I'm doing. And to me, it's kind of bland, and I want it to not be bland. So I am actually thinking, today's the 4th of September. So I'm thinking on the 5th, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play around on stream and just try a bunch of different genres. Maybe start like 5 or 6 different songs and see where we go with that. And maybe I'll find a new style that really speaks to me. I've been thinking more about like very ambient music, or going back to like the IDM chill stuff that's more about the space between the layers rather than just trying to cram everything in there. Because I think one of my big problems right now is that I am just cramming everything in there. I'm just adding layer on layer on layer because I don't know how to execute on the ideas that I have. So I want to sit down and I want to work with finding a style that's a little bit more chill. And I think that that's really going to be the next big goal for me, is to kind of reinvent my style a little bit. Which, I mean, my style is kind of all over the place anyway, and that's what I love about what I do. So I'm not going to be like, I'm only going to make EDM from now on. I'm going to just focus on a couple different things, and if that means I'm going to go like hard ambient music for a while, then maybe I'll do that. I love sound design, and maybe I need to practice more with the sound design that I do. So yeah, I don't really want to get rid of the 2-hour track challenge anytime soon, because I feel that it's an important mainstay to the kind of creative work that I do. But I also don't want to overburden myself with the idea that I have to sit down and I have to make a song in 2 hours every day. So it might be something where I just do a music stream on Wednesday, and I don't worry as much about it being within the 2-hour time limit. But on that note, I don't really want to spend 6 hours to 8 hours every Wednesday making one song, because streaming for that long, if nothing else, will burn me out. So there's a middle ground in there somewhere. A couple people suggested that I take off from the 2-hour track challenge from October to January, and that's not a bad idea, because I do intend on doing the National Solo Album Month in November, and I know that juggling making a song on stream every Wednesday along with making an album independent of those songs is tough. So I'm not fully sure how I'm going to do that yet. but it's something that I'm thinking about. But I think for the most part with 2021, I really want to just keep building a community and keep building content that inspires and educates people. I think that that's really the most important thing for me. And one thing that I wrote a long time ago, there was a post from Jean Leggett about creating your own mission statement, which is kind of combining a couple questions that she asked, like, what do you like to do? How do you do it? What's the kind of the community that you want to focus on and stuff like that. And I ended up with this mission statement. I create friendly music and videos on a regular schedule that engender conversation and allow people to grow and allow people to grow personally and creatively. Sorry, I was reading that from like two ways away on my laptop. So yes, I create friendly music and videos on a regular schedule that engender conversation and allow people to grow personally and creatively. And that's really what I want to keep doing. I feel like that really nailed what my kind of general style was, where I want to create a community that allows people to talk to each other and allows those people to grow on a personal and creative level. And that's really it. So I want to keep building a community, and that means that I have to keep hosting community events because that continues to bring new people in. And I think that that's very, very important. Oh, yeah, and I also want to try to do more remix albums. I had a ton of fun with Chicken Nuggets, which I think is out when this goes live. I think it came out yesterday if you're listening to this on the 18th. So go check that out too. I probably posted something in Patreon about it. So yeah, doing more remix albums is good, but that also means I need to sit down and make more singles for people to work on remix albums for. So we'll see how that goes. But again, it's just an excuse to put out more content. And the more content that you put out, the more people you bring in. And that's really the big thing for me, is just continuing that cycle of creative give and take. So this episode is a little shorter than the other two, but I'm not really holding myself to anything at all, and that's okay. But I just really wanted to sit down and I wanted to talk about what my thoughts for 2020 are going to be. Like, as far as the state of the world, I have no idea if quarantine's still going to be in effect. My wife and I are being very, very cautious about this stuff because of our health situations and the people that we caretake. So I want to make sure that, like, I don't know when I'm going to be in social situations again, so I have to rely on the internet for that, and that's okay. But that's pretty much it. 2021 is going to be a great year. Honestly, aside from all of the stuff that happened in the world, I feel that 2020 was a great year for me as well. I had high hopes for this year, and I mean, externally it's a mess, but internally with my creative process, I feel like I've made some great strides, and I'm really proud of that. So, you know, it's there's give and take there. Anyway, that is all I have for this episode. Again, thank you guys so much for listening and being a Patreon supporter. It really does mean a lot to me. I hope that you're enjoying these longer format episodes. I am getting used to the process of talking for longer than 3 minutes at a time. So, yeah, I'm going to keep at it. I have a couple more ideas that I want to record over the next week or two, and then I'll start getting feedback from you soon. So thank you again for listening. Thank you again for being a Patreon supporter. I really do appreciate it. And I will talk to you in the next one. Be remarkable.